NZ Aerosports, Icarus Canopies, now Gyro. That's right, we've rebranded, and Gyro is our next generation. It honours our founder, as that's the name we knew him by, but Gyro also marks the start of a new chapter. And not to be biased, but it's going to be fucking epic. Long story short, we're more us than ever, so if you're new to the sport, or even a Sky God Ninja Turtle, welcome. I think our valiant leader Lucy, Gyro's daughter, says it best.
And we still got that fuck yeah attitude. Rebrand! Woo!
Rebrand woo indeed, Lucy. Anyway, head over to gyro.com for more info and get amongst you legends.
I was 19, broke, unemployed, and sold my girlfriend's canopy for drug money. So I thought I better sew her a new one. What a sentence, and what a story. This describes the humble yet outrageous beginnings of NZ Aerosports, the home of Icarus Canopies, in the words of our founder himself. From getting a paratrooper toy from his mom, watching parachutes at the DZ as a 6-year-old, jumping off the wharf with a parachute made from bed sheets, doing his first jump at 16, sewing his first canopy on a borrowed machine at 19, and starting to sell parachutes out of a garage in 1986, Paul Gyro Martin had an undying love for the sky. Our company started with one man with the wildest of spirits and a true blue sky dream, a renegade. In the time that Gyro created and ran the Icarus Canopies brand until he passed away in 2017, he pushed everything he had to its limits. We miss him, and we always will. Gyro is the next generation of NZ Aerosports. It honors our founder, of course, because it was the name we all knew him by, but Gyro the rebrand also marks the start of a new chapter, our next jump. Gyro is the space between sound and silence, art and science, chaos and calm. Gyro is a state of epic tranquility that transcends understanding. That moment, in the door, in free fall, mid-swoop, where nothing but the present exists. A perfect balance of euphoria and thrill. Gyro captures our passion for flying and our commitment to designing break-the-fucking-rules canopies that deliver pilots pure, wild flight. Hey gang, so I got a new book out. It's called The Upside of Fear, and it's exactly what you think it's about. It's about the good side of, well, getting scared. In it, we talk not only about the science and biology behind fear, but the psychology as well. And it's not just coming from me, it's coming from some of the best in the sport. Omar Alhigelan, Jeff Provenzano, Maxine Tate, and so many more have contributed their sometimes terrifying stories to the book to help you overcome your fear. So head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com. You're going to find the link to the book there, as well as the other books. It's available in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook right now.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go! Back in the can for another edition of the Lunatic Fringe podcast, and another old friend on the other line. Straight to it. Who the fuck are you, and what do you do?
Hello, everybody. I'm Matt Yount. So a little bit about me. I've been in the sport for about 26 years now. Got a little over 17,000 jumps. Been jumping around the United States all my life. Pretty much day one, wanted to travel, see the world, earn the ratings, and jump wherever. So I've worked for Mike Mullins, CSC, Midwest, Skydive Carolina, Vegas, Florida's drop zones. Been bouncing around, traveling around, doing examining, throwing drogues, doing AFF, loving every bit of it. In the recent last few years, been traveling around internationally, checking out different spots, throwing boogies all over, just having a lot of fun.
Man, the last time you and I were together, I believe we were busy trying to duct tape your ankle together so that you could go make one last jump over Everest.
That seems like my story of my life up there. Every time I always get hurt at Everest, but like I say, I don't need a foot to jump out of a helicopter and I don't need a foot to land a tandem.
Yeah, man. I'll never forget that because you were having a tough time doing anything on both feet, but you were bound and determined. And I think you were the only tandem master up there, so you
Yep,
knew it was you or it wasn't getting done.
done. Yep, we had 2 tandems to do, and that was just how it is. So I still have not hiked up to the top. This day.
How fucking funny is that? Well,
I
and
know.
both times that I've been up there, I never intentionally planned on being there when Everest Skydive was going on, and both times I just made it to Sangbochi like in time for everything.
Right. Yeah. That's the perfect time of year to hike that mountain. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful weather, most stable, and just awesome time to jump up there at that time.
Yeah,
So,
man. Yeah, me and my good friend Olga Namova and her boyfriend Brad and my wife are going back in April
okay.
to do Island Peak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna
I heard
see
that's
if we can actually manage it.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Is it a little bit farther up there or is it
it's
same
actually
distance?
it's when you're in I think it's Tengboche. Instead of making the left turn to keep up the path, you make a right turn and it's a half a oh pardon me, it's Dingboche and it's half a day's hike from Dingboche.
Okay.
And
That's
that's
not
where
bad.
base camp is. No, 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 no. So it's basically right off the Everest Trail.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wonderful.
So enough about my bullshit, man. Let's for anybody that didn't hear the first podcast that you and I did, let's give them kind of the background and how you got started in skydiving and all that shit.
Right. So I started in southern Missouri at a drop zone called Free Fall Express, Mount Vernon, Missouri. It is no longer there, but now it's renamed and moved to a different spot called Ozark Skydiving Center. I was about 17 when I got my certificate, did my first jump around 17, 18. And as soon as I walked into first jump course, I knew what I wanted to do. That was just my dream. Like I want that job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in the Ozarks, there's not a lot to do. I mean, you're kind of, it has some goods and bads, but it was just something that when I saw it, that's what I wanted to be. And here I am now. So basically, I started there, jumping my butt off every day, packing parachutes to make the jump tickets. And I remember this old man, Jim West from Greene County, Ohio, said, "Hey, you're a TI." And I said, "I just got my TI. Hop in my plane with me in my Casa and let me take you out somewhere." And that's kind of how it began my career. And then I just started traveling around everywhere. So,
So
yeah.
so the Ozarks isn't Chicago accountants and Mexican cartels? You're fucking blowing
No, no,
my whole image of the Ozarks, man. What the
I know.
fuck?
It is it's a beautiful place, beautiful rivers and hills and lakes, and just one of those surreal kind of places to be, to grow up. I mean, like, parents were like, "You're out or in and you're not back until dark." You know
Right.
what I mean? And literally we had bikes and we just rode our bikes miles and miles any direction we wanted to go, and then we had four-wheelers and motorcycles, and
Well, that was
there's
our
a lot.
generation, right? Our generation's parents were like, "Get the fuck out of our houses for a while."
Yeah, AC's on, you're out.
Yeah, man. Saturday, I don't know how it was at your house, but on Saturdays, as soon as Saturday morning cartoons were over, I better be on my way out the goddamn door.
Yeah, that was for sure. You're gone, you know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean?
So now,
And
was there a plan for you before skydiving entered your life? Was there something you were thinking of and it got derailed by skydiving?
really, like, I was kind of lost in that process, trying to figure out my life in general. Uh, and a lot of my friends ended up really going down a real bad road. So it's a huge meth capital of the world. So,
Sure.
and, skydiving was just kind of my out. So I really didn't have any idea where I was going at that time, especially 17, 18. I was doing a little bit of framing houses and stuff like that, but just was kind of lost. And then I found skydiving. So,
And
and
I mean, so it was like the perfect fit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I mean it was rock climbing, jumping off stuff, blowing stuff up in the woods. I mean, the normal kid
Was
things we did.
was skydiving something that you had to work past getting through the initial fears of skydiving, or were you just like fucking let's send it?
Yeah, let's just go. Like it was just a thing. Like no fear. I didn't do a tandem. I was just like IED straight through it. And they're like, door open. I'm like, let's go.
God, the balls of a 17-year-old, right?
Yeah. It's even like when people were like, when I turned like 20, Brom Clemens showed up and was like, hey, I'm doing an AFF course. And all the candidates failed. And I was like, hey, can I take this course? And he's like, well, how many jumps? And I'm like, I just have the jump numbers to qualify. And he's like, let's go make a jump. And I was like, and everybody's like, oh, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. And I'm like, let's go. Let's do it. Let's
One way
have
to find
fun.
out.
Yeah. And Rob's like, you're good. Like you have no fear. Let's do this. So that's always been kind of me. It's like, all right, just let's jump. With doors open, fear goes away, and let's go.
So, like, how long did it take you to get through your student status and become a licensed jumper?
It took about a month, so I was quick.
Special.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So let's break it down because this was a few years back now. What was the cost of skydiving back then? Because for a 17-year-old, that's not an easy feat.
So actually, I remember this specifically. So it was my mom got me a gift certificate for $99, buy one get one IED jump, right? And that come with first jump course. And it was like I did both jumps the same day, loved every minute of it. And the owner goes, give me $1,000 and I'll get you a license. I'll guarantee you 25 jumps and teach you everything else. And the next weekend I showed up with $1,000 and let's start going.
That's awesome. Now, was this the kind of operation where you knew, especially if you were as high energy about it as you were, was there an obvious path to starting to work in it? Or were you just like, fuck, now I'm licensed, what happens next?
Actually, it was just kind of like you got licensed and, everybody was much older in the sport than I was. I was dealing with a lot of 40-year-olds and 30-year-olds, but the owner kind of took me on as his son, and just like, hey, you want to pack some parachutes, and I was a broke kid, he's like, pack some parachutes and that'll make you some money. And he just kept on offering. And then he was a tandem examiner and the same thing applied there. He was like, hey, you owe me 25 tandem jumps and I'll get you rated or we'll go through the course. And,
That's
if
awesome.
you pass. And so it just happened like that. And the AFF worked like that. You owe me 25 AFF jumps if I pay for your AFF rating. And he always promoted me. Like that was one thing about that drop zone. He promoted me to leave the drop zone and see other drop zones and get experience from the outside and bring it back. And then when somebody offered me to go with Ohio, he was like, get on that plane. You have your opportunity to go work at a turbine drop zone. Do it. And I, after the season, I came back and he's like, that's great. And then it was like, hey, Mike Mullins is hiring. Why don't you go down there and try that, So yeah, that's how I started my career. Was the drop zone the owner kept on pushing me to go places.
Which is fucking awesome because you don't necessarily always get that kind of a break.
No. And that's one thing. Yeah, most drop zone owners don't want you to leave your drop zone.
No. Well, and I think especially now as a lot of the smaller operations find themselves being squeezed out by either tough times or by the turbine drop zones that are all around, that they're probably trying to hang on to everybody that they've got.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're having a downtrend right now in the sport, and I think that's due to economy or people living on credit cards or stuff like that. So our numbers are a little bit down for sport jumpers or even tandems. I would say last year to this year, we're probably another 10 or 15% down. And some drops are even dramatically more than that. So unfortunately.
I mean, I guess that makes sense though, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of up and down trends in the 29 years I've been in the sport, and you definitely see the changes come. And obviously the economy always plays a part in it, but even the economy within the sport, right? I mean,
Oh, for sure.
You and I started when you could have everything you could possibly need gear wise for on the high end 4 grand, and
Oh, for
now
sure.
fucking 4 grand's not even a down payment.
Yeah, now some of these rigs are 9,000 to 11,000 for brand new rigs, and you're like, well, then I got another $1,000 in altimeters, helmets, jumpsuits. It's almost pricing itself out, and jump tickets, I remember were $10 and now we're at 30, $35 a jump. And you're
Yep,
going, wow, this is expensive. I mean, it is the times and we're, the economy, how it
for
is, but
sure, for sure.
planes are a little bit more.
Oh yeah, it's honestly it's the gear stuff that I think catches me off guard the most. But then again, I look at it from someone that's been in the sport for a while and see all the R&D and technology that's gone into making modern gear. So I get it, but that
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily lessen the blow when you're staring down $10,000 for a rig.
right. Especially for new jumpers, like we kind of accept it because we know what's going on and how they've done it, and the revolution of the sport, gear and stuff like that, and what they put into it. But these new jumpers are not expecting it. You know what I
No,
mean?
no.
And I'm seeing rigs come back out on the market are from the 80s and 90s for sale. And they're more expensive now buying those than you bought them back then. It's all
Yep.
like, wow.
You know,
You
it's
want a dome? Yeah.
it's great though in that this shit is made so well and so durably and has stood the test of time, so much so that a rig that was built 15, 20 years ago is still a great rig.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And I remember back in the days, 20 years old was pretty much trash.
Yeah.
That's what we thought. But now I'm seeing rigs that are 30 and 40 years old. And parachutes are still jumping, and you're like,
I mean, I can't say I would want my old Talon that I bought 30 years ago on my back again. Would I trust it? Sure. Would I?
eh,
Wasn't the most comfortable equipment I'd ever
no,
hung in.
no, no,
You
no.
know. So you had great breaks when you were starting out and definitely had a DZO that was really pushing you to go further, but how much of a shock was it to end up in somebody like Mullen's King Air? I mean, the fastest jump plane on the planet.
Oh, especially being a kid jumping on there. And then Mike's kids were, well, Jeff and Joel were 18, 17, 18. Zach was 11. Matt was 6 or 8 at the time. So we were all kids. And it was just one of those amazing things to jump in and see everybody like that and be a part of that time. It was just, and Mike was just a great leader for us at that time, and just kind of helped us through. And we just had so much fun with it. It was like the wild days, you know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and
I
there
mean,
were
a bunch
still some of the real pivotal names, the icons in the sport. Mullins
of,
being one of the names, and you can think of half a dozen for sure from that era that you're like, yeah, they were one of the reasons the next generation was so embraced in the sport and did so well.
oh
I
yeah,
mean,
for sure.
The Roger Nelsons and the Ted Strongs and all these guys that were just trailblazing shit.
Oh, for sure. And that was, we had the what? You'd always have like the fly boys, and
Uh,
you had all these different, you know, Luigi and what was it, JC and stuff
yep,
like that were just
yep.
out there doing amazing things with actually now the parachutes are not existent or even like, oh yeah, we jumped those. I mean, they're
Yep.
small, so I mean, they were doing amazing things. And, some of the stuff was still going on at that time, like World Free Fall Convention and Couch Freaks, and that we were all grouping up. And it was just amazing because I was throwing drogues at World Free Fall.
Uh,
And that's how I ended up coming around you, because it was Nate Dexter that was like, hey, you're pretty good at tandems. Why don't you come to CSC with me? And I'm all like, okay, what's in Chicago? And he's like, oh man, you got to try this place out. And of course, that's when we all got there. And Man, that was one of the times I was talking to Doug yesterday about that. 2009 to 2006, the numbers blew up on us, right? The economy was the best ever. We were slinging drugs 20 a day, and we were making fun of people that couldn't do more than 15 a day. like,
Absolutely.
like, you can't do more than 15 a day every day. Like, you're gone.
And jumping in some pretty challenging conditions. I
Yeah.
mean, I was dropping you guys at the limit all the time because obviously in the Midwest, it's real feast or famine with the weather.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if the winds are a quarter knot under the limits and the clouds are 5 feet higher than they need to be, we're fucking going.
No, we're going. Yeah, there was no stopping us. I mean,
No.
we're back in canopies in, like, all right, let's go again, all day long.
Well, you remember
Like,
that day? I think I was flying the Pac 750 and the uppers at altitude were 80 knots and we were
yeah.
backing the plane in and instructors are like, "How long do we wait?" And I'm like, "Just close the door and wait till you see parachutes and then you can exit."
yeah.
Like
It
this is
was
a
some
fucking base jump.
right. Yeah. It was some crazy stuff we did back then. Stuff that I wouldn't even do now. I mean, it's like, you know what I mean?
Oh, I
But
know. Well, we did our best to maintain cloud clearance because we had FISDO that off and on didn't like us that much. But I vividly remember having somebody on the ground, usually be Doug on the ground, trying to talk me to a hole, and us
yeah.
just cranking and banking turns in the otter, and me red light, green light, go
Like,
go
you're
go
like,
go,
yeah,
stop stop stop, go go
like,
go.
yeah, don't go. Yeah.
And my
I mean,
motivation was I didn't get paid if y'all didn't jump. So I'm
right.
like,
So,
one of you motherfuckers is getting out of the plane.
yeah. And we just were like, yeah, cool, let's go. I mean, there was a barely I don't think we ever stopped. I mean, it was just like we start up, we're going to the end of it, like
Oh
rain or
yeah.
shine,
Well, we
we're
had
going.
one specific day I'll never forget. There was a nasty weather front coming to us, but the wind hadn't gotten there yet. And everybody's like, "Oh, this will be the last load. This will be the last load." And we were shut down. And they had a load that they could send. And I'm looking at the clouds and I'm like, I think we can get there in time. I think we can do it. And everybody's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Of course, halfway up, I'm flying there going, "I don't fucking know if we're gonna make this shit." And I literally dropped everybody, raced to the ground, got the otter shut down, and one tie down on as the last canopy's landing, and that blast of wind from the storm hit us like 30 seconds later. And I'm like, "Told you."
Yeah, we made it. We made it, and
By
we
the
were safe about it. I can't think of anybody getting hurt then or anything
no.
crazy ever happening. But man, what a team we had, just cranking them out and
Oh
just having a
yeah.
lot of fun. We just had so much fun out in the middle of nowhere.
We definitely did have a good time. I mean, the that crew specifically just knew how to get shit done,
Oh yeah.
and it was a
And
pretty tight team.
all right, and we were all very young too. I mean, all in our, I would say, 20s
Yep,
to early 30s. I
yep,
mean, there was nobody really old on the team, and we were all just babies.
yep, yep. Well, and it was funny because we'd still get a little mayhem. It wasn't the party drop zone like Cross Keys where I had been before, but definitely the bonfire vibe and like Manifest and me as the pilot, we always had a handle of fucking rum or Jack under the counter for after sunset and shit. And have a little bit of fun. And it was, I mean, it was a tight family. You had the Dexters, Lisa and Nathan were in there and all that. Just a great crew.
Oh yeah. Just super fun. And I see a lot of them still. Miss Nate more than anything. God,
Yeah,
he passed, and then that's an unfortunate.
yeah.
Lisa's still doing good, and I
I
still
re
see Buzz. Buzz is still doing good, and Josh
yeah.
is doing good. So I
One of
mean,
my favorite memories of Lisa, it was a fucked up day because usually we had really great customers, but this particular day, one guy was just being a total douchebag and somehow it made Lisa cry. And all of us were like, you don't fuck with our manifest. We can fuck with our manifest, but you guys don't get to. And I believe it was Paul that got the guy on a tandem. And as he's coming in for landing, the corn was real high during the season. And of course, we had a pretty tight landing area in Chicagoland. So you had to be
Yeah.
on your game. And I'll never forget watching him base to final and at like 100 feet just made a dramatic right turn straight to the corn and just swooped the shit out of this guy through the corn, who had got, of course, got the shit beat out of him by corn
Yeah,
cobs
yeah,
going through, and all of us are pissing our pants laughing, going, "Don't fuck with our manifest."
yeah. That sounds like Paul.
Yep,
He's
yep.
one of those guys we just didn't mess with. So.
Yeah. No, lots of really good memories there. The one girl we had that came out and wanted to do a bunch of ride-alongs, and is a real cute girl. And after about 10 ride-alongs, Lisa's like, she can't just keep staying on the plane. She's gotta fucking pay. And I'm like, well, you know how they get free tandems if they go naked? And she's like, yeah, well, how about a ride along? And so next thing you know, and we had the Pac 750 seat was backwards. The co-pilot seat was
Oh yeah,
backwards.
yeah, yeah,
She
yeah.
was sitting there in a thong and topless, and it's the first time I've ever seen a load of tandem instructors sit the wrong way in the plane so they could stare at the girl in the seat.
There were the days. I mean, we had some fun back then.
Oh
That's for
God,
sure.
yeah. So, how about you did stuff like CSC and all over the U.S., but how did the international stuff start coming in?
So 2017, Tom Noonan, which we were good buddies at that time, we did some courses and we actually trained together as examiners for Strong. He said, "Hey, I need a TI. You're pretty good at this. I really want you to come up and meet the team and come do a tandem with me at Everest." And so I did the tandem with him. I enjoyed it a lot, and then it kind of was like got me the itch, and and that's how it kind of blew up on me. I started doing that, went to a bunch of boogies with Rich Grimm, and then Iceland and different things like that, and I've just really enjoyed it.
It's
Been
kind of
a lot of fun.
I mean, it's kind of amazing, really, when you think about the shit that especially you and I have gotten to do in the places we've gotten to see because once upon a time we decided to jump out of an airplane.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's taken me all over the world, just like you. It is. I've met some amazing people in this process and has changed my whole thoughts and process to the world or how I believe in and stuff like that. So it's just,
Sure. Well,
I
and
get,
guys like Tom, he was so infectious with his not just love of skydiving, but in particular his desire to make tandem skydiving as good as humanly possible.
oh yeah, he was the best of the best. You know what I mean? He always said he wasn't the greatest TI, but he was a great teacher. You know what I mean? And he was probably the best. I mean, he was, no matter if you had 17,000 jumps or you had 5 jumps on tandems, he was like your buddy. You
Sure.
trusted him. You called him if you had a problem. He would talk to you as a normal person. He would never scream at people. He would give his opinions and let you digest it and then come back. And even if you disagreed with him, he was okay with that.
Yeah.
He just kind of talked to you as a human. So
He
you always felt
was
like a friend.
he was super cool because I've had him on the show a couple of times, and he was great when I reached out to him because that was back when the podcast was just getting started, and so it didn't really have much of a name, and he was super stoked to be on it. We had a great conversation, and I was really fired up to hear all the stuff that he had to say, and then he followed it up with another one, and he was actually the reason why I got to get a bunch of different people on, Uncle Bill being the biggest one.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
mean, and he was literally like, "Hey, you want Bill on the podcast?" And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Of course I do. He's all, "Well, shit, dude, he's just next door. I'll set it up." And he did. I'm all, "That's score.
Yeah.
Amazing."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. So
Yeah.
what was your first time abroad?
That was Everest, actually.
And now briefly tell the story of how you fucked yourself up on that first trip.
So I was in, yeah. So we were in Nancy Bazaar in the night. We are having the meeting, going to this coffee shop, and they were fixing the steps out of the hotel. And one of the blocks had been removed and not filled in yet. And I basically came walking down the stairs in the dark, stuck my foot right in it, and turned the corner as I was stepping off, and it just went snap, and I went down. A bunch of people come running, grab me, like Dr. Ryan, everybody's running, they get me inside, and it balloons up huge. I mean, so big, it was, tiger stripes in the first couple seconds, you're like, I'm done, it's one of those things. I pretty much go into shock. I have a great picture online on Facebook about me going into shock. I have Tom's cover over my head. I'm in this onesie, like dying through the process. And so, they're like, we don't know what to do. Should we send you back down? And I'm like, no, I'll be fine. Let's just see what happens. Is it broke? Is it, what did I just tear it up? And, Ryan's like, no, I'm pretty sure you broke it, and I'm like, it's fine. We're up here. We got to walk up to Shambouche tomorrow. So let's just see. And Tom's like, no, why don't you take a couple days off? Just sit here, this whole thing. And I'm like, all right, I'll sit here. No big deal. 2 days down, he comes back. He goes, all right, Matt, it's still swollen. It's pretty bad. And I'm like, he's like, well, I'll just take your tandem and my wife. And I'm like, no, Tom. And he's like, no, really. I mean, you're like, how are you going to jump? I don't need a foot to jump out of a helicopter, and I definitely don't need to land. And he's like, all right, I'll make you a deal, Matt. You got to climb your butt up every morning and down up to Shambouche from Nancy Bazaar. And he goes, it's a 2-hour hike. And I was like, all right, cool. So I went out, got a brace, wrapped it with a bandage. Some little guy carved me a cane. And I pretty much crawled up there every morning and every night down.
Fucking hell. And that's,
I guess,
for anybody that's not been there, the trek from Namche Bazaar to Seongboche is no fucking joke.
Oh, no. I was, there's a lot of pain. The circles are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, got to make it up there. I'm getting up there to make this jump.
Yeah. So how far up the hill did you make it in 2023 before you fucked yourself up?
Literally walking out of the hotel. I mean, were you there at the time when I did it? Like,
I wasn't there when you did it. When I showed up, you were already limping.
So, okay, so the little place where we gear up, right? And there's a little stair, right? And I was just literally talking to Omar and PH, blah, 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 da, da, da. And I'm fine. Everything's great. And I literally just walked down the stairs and that ankle just rolled. I don't know what happened. And I just went face down. And it was like, they looked at me like it's happening all over again. And I'm like, and that, and I think you showed up. Yeah, you showed up right after that. And it was just like,
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it was a great benefit for me because it actually gave me something to do instead of standing there making an ass out of myself talking skydiving to the tandems. Because I'm like, all right, I can help collect this gear. I can shag shit. And I ended up being able to pack a couple of parachutes because you weren't able to do a lot of the stuff that you were doing because you were trying to take care of your ankle. And so I'm like, this is fucking great. I'm part of the team.
Yeah, but it's, once you're up there, you got a job. And, I remember Tom saying, sometimes when we're up here, you might be sick, but we have a job to do. And that's, the thing, if you just got to get it done. These people are paying a lot of money. They deserve everything you can give them. And as long as my leg is somewhat functional, and I still have one good one, I can still do this. So,
yep. No, that whole thing. I've got all kinds of pictures and you can see you just got this fucking look on your face like I'm going to get this shit done. But there was also palpable relief on your face when you landed from that last tandem and you're like, I'm fucking done. That's it.
Yeah, I was done. I was like, all right, I'm good. And, it's like, all right, we're flying you back down. I'm like, thank God.
Yep.
You
I
know,
mean,
like,
I hate to say it because it was clearly incredibly hard while you were there, but what a story to tell.
oh yeah, yeah. And there's some amazing jumps up there, and that we have such a good team up there, and it's just like everybody loves everybody, and all the drama kind of goes away,
Yep.
and life problems go away when you're up there because you really don't have the outside life interfering with life there,
Right.
and everything just is so much more peaceful, and it's just one of those great experiences.
Oh
So
yeah.
if anybody can ever make it up to Everest, it's one of those jumps you will never regret. And it's one of those experiences that change your life forever.
Undoubtedly. Well, and you weren't actually able to be there for the podcast that we did because obviously you'd flown down the hill to take care of your ankle. But it was Omar and PH and Matthew, the fun jumper that was up there
Oh,
to
yeah.
jump.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And it was we sat around in the tea house in Sangboche, um, literally drinking tea, which is so unskydiver like it's not even funny. Um, talking shit about jumping for an hour. And I've told the story on the podcast before. That's where I was staying down in Namche and didn't start heading down until after the sun had already gone down. And so not even a quarter of the way down, it's jet black. And I had refused the offer of a flashlight
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
because I'm not that smart,
Yeah. 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 No, no,
you
no.
know?
We skydivers, right? Not
Yeah, man.
hikers.
I'll make it. It'll be okay. I remember
What
getting down there and sending Omar a message going, I'm a fucking idiot. Don't ever let me do that again. So
Yeah.
now, one of your posts not that long ago caught my attention. It's the reason that I wanted to talk to you again. So you're doing the politics thing, man. What's going on with this?
Yeah, so had some friends kind of start getting me into it. I am actually running for national director of USBA. There's 8 board members of national director. We have one open seat. 14 are running for it right now, but anybody could be knocked off. So it is kind of one of those things. But a couple guys came to me and you're like, you've been attending these meetings. And, I always said, hey, someday I want to maybe do this, attending these meetings and what you guys are doing. And they're like, why don't you run this time around? And so, yeah, that's why I'm here now doing that. So Larry Hill stepped off the board this time around. He just retired. So that was great. He had 30 years of service in there. So, but he has moved on. And so it's gonna be it's a big fight. We got a lot of good people in there.
Sure.
Sean Hill's running, Scotty from Arizona, Amy from Red Bull. I mean, you got a lot of good people running with a lot of good experience. So
Yeah. Well, and it's cool too with somebody like Larry that had the history that he did, but now the next generation is stepping up with a whole new USPA and all kinds of different, more modern concerns as things shift gears. So it's kind of the natural, succession.
right. And that's where, the great part is right now we have 34 members running for the board of directors.
Awesome.
Between regions and national. That's some of the largest numbers ever wanting to be a part of the board, so that's great. The next generation is stepping up for the older generation, which we are seeing a lot of them retire. And, some of that history's passed on or it's going away, which is a sad thing for us. But it's great to see now the new jumpers or jumpers like me stepping up and saying, hey, I want to do this. I want to be a part. I want to help out. And that's a great part of this.
So now, are there things that you see that you think need changing? Are you things that are heading in the right direction that you want to reinforce? I mean, what specifics are you looking at?
So for me, I was looking at the international part, right? So we started a process a few years ago where we offered foreign members, a ratings and license and stuff like that. And it always really started off with our military group for 20 guys, right? And it grew to a huge part of our numbers now. It's 25% of our membership is actually international.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a huge part. And actually, if you look at drop zones, I think it's almost 30% of our drop zones are international, and another 30% or 35% S&TAs are international.
Wow.
So that's a huge number. But in the last recent years, there have been talks about removing some of the voting rights for the international people, because they always figure that the international could group up in one region and basically control USPA by putting their members into that position. So as a national organization, I understand that, but it hasn't happened. It's not happening. It's never happened, but it could happen, right? So we could have, somebody from Mongolia in 4 regions or 14 regions, and they all vote him in, right?
Right.
And so that's why they're kind of starting to, they're going to start removing the rights from the international to have the vote for regional directors. And I feel some of the international, they just don't have representation in their area. Like, they don't have anybody they can go to from their religion or culture or in their area to talk to have their concerns addressed to USPA. And
Sure.
I'm all like, so that's what I'm really running on, is to introduce new regional directors into different areas of the country or in the world for representation. And that way we can actually get feedback from our foreign members and actually supply them a place to go, to address us or even check what we do and maybe add more stuff to it, to different countries.
I mean, well, the bottom line is, if you're going to offer membership, then you have to offer representation.
Correct.
It just has to be that way. I mean, what good does that membership do you if you have absolutely no voice, if something is not the way it should be?
Right. I mean, we do offer ratings and licenses, but we got to offer more, right? And that's where we must listen to our foreign members, right? And it would save us a lot with this process, because we've changed so many rules with foreign 4 or 5 times because we're just not listening out there, right?
Sure.
And people are like, oh, well, they just don't email. How do you hear stuff? You start talking to the members. The members don't email their concerns. You have to talk and have a discussion with them, right? And with me traveling, I ask, I talk, and I see that they just want this. They want more. Other countries are just establishing or coming brand new onto skydiving now. They just don't know where to go with it. So USPA can also help establish rules and regulations for countries. We did this recently with the Bahamas, where we took the barb and the sim. We threw out a bunch of junk we didn't want and took the good stuff that we do want.
Sure.
So we prevent corruption and accountability, and then their government knows exactly how to do it or how skydiving is. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's a lot of places that I was lucky in that with Dubai. The Palm was a USPA drop zone. And you had guys like David Ludwig that were, representing the USPA, who was very vocal about trying to, put out the needs of the membership that were in Dubai. But I would imagine a lot of places that have adopted the USPA don't necessarily have a representative there that's as vocal or as active as somebody like David was.
That's right. And that's what that I feel that's a little bit of problem for them, and some drop zones just don't even know, they have no voice. They have no one to talk to. They're on a 12-hour time change. They use our sims, they use our IRMs, they use our ratings, but they have concerns in their own country, or sometimes the countries are trying to shut them down. And why can't we help them stay open? I mean, we do it in the US now. We might not be able to fight a country, but we could give a letter saying, hey, we back these guys. Here's how we do this. This is our thing. Let's help you establish rules and regulations in your country so you know what to look for. And we just get more feedback on equipment, how everything's going, trends, stuff like that.
Sure.
I mean, it's not just US anymore. We're worldwide.
Well,
and that's one thing that
let's face it, the USPA, the brand of the USPA carries a lot of weight behind it. It's been around for a very long time, and it was and has been the cornerstone for, the industry worldwide for a long time. I mean, obviously the UK and Australia and stuff have their own independent federations, but they mirror everybody mirrors everybody to some degree. But the USPA is one of the pillars in the sport.
Right. They're usually considered the gold standard. We're the only one that has an international program.
Yep.
So we have international affiliates. So, I mean, we've kind of stepped up, but I see us maybe 20, 30 years expanding, even grouping in with those countries, like New Zealand, or Australia, where they're like, let's just combined, why have multiple federations and people are paying multi things, or, hey, I can't go jump there because I'm not rated in that country, where we can just be one, because we're all doing the same thing. We all believe in safety, and it's all about skydiving. We're just here to have fun. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and as a jumper that's traveled and jumped abroad, that USPA license carried a lot of weight when I went other places too. I mean, I got hired in New Zealand, I got hired in Fiji where I jumped, all because I had the jump numbers through USPA and had to do very little jumping through hoops. Now that's changed a little bit now, especially with Australia jumps to mind first of all. The conversion for me as an instructor or a US instructor to go there is quite rigorous and can be difficult, I've heard. So the idea that down the road it could be a blending of those federations to make it easier for people to do, to chase summer from the US summer to the Australian summer, it makes a hell of a lot more sense if it's more of a universal license.
Right. And actually, we've recently started with Australia, and that they're having troubles finding instructors, and we're having troubles finding instructors. So now we have certain things where USPA and their Australian Federation basically co-sponsors you to come over and get visas. So we can go back and forth. So, and this is another process to help that part. That we put a representation in Australia or in that area so they can have direct communications with us back and forth. And we see how their rules change because they're kind of a little bit more advanced on the instructional part, I think, maybe a little bit, especially with things they do. But we could apply some of our stuff, they could apply some of their stuff, and we could actually benefit both ways. So.
Well, and the sport does nothing but benefit from that as well, because like you said, if instructors are starting to, be a little bit more difficult to find, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, and you probably can as well, that my ability to go work abroad lit or relit my fire for skydiving at a time when I would have been teetering on whether or not do I really want to work in this sport anymore, or do I just want to be a weekend warrior? And the next thing you know, you're in free fall with a girl in a bikini over an island in Fiji, or you're hanging out with new friends in New Zealand or Australia or wherever you are going, holy fucking shit, this is amazing.
Yeah, and that's the same thing for me. I hit burnout. I started traveling, and I found the love all over again.
Yeah.
And just to realize how people worldwide how they're so great worldwide. And there's so many amazing things to see and so many amazing things to do out there.
Well, and there's nothing better than landing in a new place where you thought you didn't know anybody and finding out that all these amazing women and men are either already known to you or they know everybody you know. And it's that, 1 degree of separation. If I don't know you, I know a dozen people that do.
Right. And then that's just kind of how our sport works. It's like everybody knows everybody, and might not know you personally, but, we're still friends, still family out there.
Absolutely. So tell people when the election is so they have an idea. Tell them how they go about doing, if they need to register, if there's anything needs to be done, and then tell everybody how to reach out to you specifically.
Okay. So USPA elections go from October 1st to November 1st for 1 month. You can vote for 8 national directors out of 14 that are running, and you can vote for 1 regional director. Certain regions have people opposing them, so you can vote for either or just one. So you can't vote for every region, but you can vote for one region, your pick. If you are in the U.S. itself, whatever your residence is, wherever you receive your mail, that is the region you must vote for. So it'll come out to everybody by email, by USPA the day of or the day before. And then on pretty much so many websites, so it'll be out there, and you just click the link, USPA.org, and it'll have the election right there available with all the candidates' profiles, bios, stuff like that. And it gives you a chance to vote one time. So,
Right.
yeah. And, so what I say is read the bios, vote for who you like. Don't vote for names. If you just heard of a name, vote for what they believe in.
Sure.
I mean, this is something that is your future. Some people are running on, just like me, to have an option to the third class medical. Some people want to do like Melissa Lowe's transparency and getting that stuff out, which she does great on. Some people like Jenny Bartholomew are about competition and stuff like that. So, and you got different people out there doing different things. So read their bios. If you believe in them, or if you know them personally, vote for them, right? It's your choice. And that's what I always tell people. I try to lead away if I've heard this name before. I know that name, vote for that.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's good and sometimes that's not so good. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't want to discourage you from voting. I want you to vote, but I want you to vote for what you know and why you're voting for.
Yeah.
Right?
Do your due diligence.
Right. Do your research. You know what I mean? Because we've had some not so good people on the board and it's gotten toxic. And, like, what I want to do is what I want to do. And some of the stuff is dreams, right? So,
Sure.
like I have a dream to move USPA to Florida. Is that, is that a possibility? Probably not, but it's a good idea. But at least I have ideas, right?
Sure.
And that's what like as a national director, if I don't have ideas, then what am I doing at this, as a national director? Bring ideas, let people make their decision. And that's what I want to do on my platform, is put out ideas. And if the members agree with it, then let's run for it. Let's bring it up to the board, see what happens. So
I think it's also very cool that as this shift happens and this next generation of potential leaders steps up, because there will be quite a transition over the next, I would say, 5 to 10 years, people that really do have the drive and the desire to take the driver's seat, I think as long as they've got a good platform, will get their shot, which is awesome.
Yeah. And that's the one thing. We're going to see a lot of people retire in the next, not this term, but next term. We've had some people on the board for 30 years. They're starting to get older and they're like, hey, this is it. Some people are like, I don't want to be a 30-year director. I just want to come in for a few years and then pass it on to the next. And that's always great.
Sure.
I think Melissa Lowe's already announced that she's only going to do this one more time and then she wants to pass it on to the next.
Sure.
So, you know what I mean? And I think these are great things, you know what I mean? So for some of these people, but it is going to change. I would say it's going to be a huge change this time, and the next board meeting is going to be another change. So, hopefully great things come out of it. We are looking at a lot of things. I talked to a lot of different directors, and there's a lot of stuff coming out. The new SIM will be out, I believe, the 1st of January or November.
Nice.
Great. The new IRM's coming out after that. So it's all brand new. Rumors are we're going to get a different selection for a third class medical for people that are doing tandems, that have been banned from tandems, from taking like Ritalin to different things like that, or some weight loss drugs. Now they're all about weight loss. How much weight did you lose?
Sure.
PTSD. That was a horrible thing. What the military turned all of that stuff into the feds, which got some people removed, which was a shame because we had good instructors. And so we want to offer something different, and like a DOT medical, truck driver medical, or something like that with a background search, which I don't disagree with a background search, on people. And, if you haven't committed, a crime in the last 10 years, why can't you be a TI? It doesn't make sense, and just different things coming out. I even hear rumor is we're looking at night tandems. Now I can't imagine back in Chicago doing night tandems, because Doug would be like, we start Friday morning and we end Monday morning.
Yeah, you would.
You know what I mean? But
you would.
You would. So, but that is one of the things certain people are working on.
Well, that was that in specifically, I had the chance to talk to the guys out in Vegas who, of course, got authorization to do the night tandems over the strip as an exemption, but to be able to, given specific criteria, to be able to offer that just offers yet another way to expand the attractiveness of the sport.
Oh, for sure. And revenue for drop zones right now, it's great. Imagine, in Florida, Christmas or New Year's Eve or 4th of July where the fireworks are going off, and doing tandem, watching that stuff. I mean, Australia has been doing this for a while now. So
I literally did the first ever sanctioned night tandem in New Zealand.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, and I think it's possible. I mean, there's going to be some stuff that you have to be qualified for and stuff like that. But
sure,
at least USPA is thinking that way, right? And we're adding stuff,
which is awesome.
Which is way awesome.
Well, there were people like me that for the longest time viewed USPA as this outdated monstrosity that didn't really change or do much of anything. And that was just because that's the impression that I'd been given by the old dogs that taught me. And then, of course, you get a little bit more mature in the sport and realize that's absolutely not the case. But like anything political, not everything happens fast.
Right. And stuff does take time. I mean, the medical is taking multiple board meetings and it's now almost ready for approval. But sometimes you have some older people on the board that have it just stuck in their mind one way. And you're like, sometimes the new generation steps up and like, no, this is capable of doing.
Yep.
And, I just brought up the other idea is, hey, let's start maybe test jumping with 2 wingsuiters. Wingsuit tandems. Now, I know they're happening. I don't know. I could never do it, but let's get some research on it. Is it capable of doing, or are these things capable? Now, probably not, probably will not be very successful, but if the members want it, let's try it.
It's
Why
worth
can't
trying.
We get more of it?
Right. Well, and even if it's an idea that's not going to come to fruition, the fact that they're getting to a point where they're able to entertain new ideas, even ones that might be a little over the top, that's kind of what it's supposed to be.
Well, yeah, and you think about it in the 70s, they were probably against tandem, right? And now it's the mainstream way of doing the first jump.
Of course.
And people, I remember in the 90s, they were scared if you're a free flyer.
Sure.
They didn't even want you on the load with the belly.
Which still cracks me up because I got the same thing. People would be nervous if you were free flying, but then you'd be on the landing area watching them toggle whip the shit out of a stiletto.
Yeah. Times change, but if we don't keep on doing more of the evolutionary parts to our sport, then we just get stale.
Yeah, for sure.
And we lose members. And that's the idea, is that now we have this new angle flying and people love it. You know what I mean? And hopefully it still stays there and it's safe and everybody, you know what I mean? And I don't want to put more rules in. I hate rules, but I love ideas and suggestions.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so I'm also, and I want to see what the next generation does. And I want to see where we go in 20 years, because in our 20 years or 30 years of being in the sport, just the evolution of our sport is just dramatically changed, right?
Oh, it's been mental.
where's the next 30 years go?
Right.
Will we actually have self-packing parachutes? Please God.
It's going to be fucking, it's not even going to be parachutes anymore. It's going to be anti-gravity boots, and you just push a button and stop falling.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's yeah.
No, I was just going to say, so for anybody that's listening that is in your region and they've got questions for you, they want to know your thoughts on different things, or they just want to come have a beer, make a jump and shoot the shit, how do they find you on social media?
So on social media, it's Matt Yount, and then Matthew Yount for National Director is on Facebook, Tandem Skydives on Instagram. And then I am one of those people. Please pick up the phone and call me. So awesome. I tell everybody my phone number is 319-389-7491.
Hey, you're mental. Oh my God. If my phone rings, I assume somebody's either dead or the world is ending.
Right. Well, you just don't get that personal connection with somebody until you're talking to them straight up. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Emails just, you can email me and I can reply to an email and that's fine, but you just don't have the personal feeling of how they feel truly. And I will be one of those guys. If you email me, you better put a phone number because I'm going to call you right back. You know what I mean? Like, and that's, that's kind of what I'm actually, if I get the national director, I'm pretty much only going to be a skydiver again. So, sure. I'm running international boogies, 9 of them this year alone or next year. So, I mean, but I want to be out there for the people. Call me, talk to me. Let's figure out some stuff. Tell me what you need. Tell me what you think. Maybe, people are asking about the Hall of Fame. I'm learning as much as I can, but if you don't ask me, then I don't know what to find out for you, but I will find out Sure. I'll call the people, we'll get the answers and we'll figure it out,
which is exactly how it should be, man. Yeah,
for sure.
Man, I'll tell you what, man, I cannot thank you enough once again for taking the time and sitting down and chatting. And I wish you all the best with the upcoming election and all the crazy fucking boogies and all that. And the first round's going to be on me when our paths cross again.
Oh, for sure. All right, buddy. Good seeing you.
Cheers, brother. We'll talk soon.
Yep.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Lunatic Fringe podcast brought to you as always by, well, wait, not as always, actually. Brought to you now by Gyro. Formerly known as NZ Aerosports, you'll head to gyro.com for their next level line of canopies. By Pussfoot, the Extreme Sports Collective. Head over to pussfoot.com to check it out. By Summit Parachute Systems, check out summitparachutesystems.com to talk to Jarrett Martin and the gang about kick-ass pilot rigs, rigging courses, and more. By Flyaway Indoor Skydiving, go to flyawaytn.com and check out all the cutting-edge stuff to come. By Pure Spectrum CBD, head to purespectrumcbd.com to check out their wide range of CBD products. And as for us, head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com to listen to any of the hundreds of episodes currently available, hit the link for our YouTube channel, pick up your copy of the Lunatic Fringe book or The Accidental Stripper, and get a sneak peek at upcoming guests. Once again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.